Welcome back to the third episode of the Work in Progress podcast, where we talk with some amazing entrepreneurs and professionals in the DMV area about their journey to success. Today, we are excited to have Miesha Dennis with us, who is an expert in the fields of graphic design, photography, videography, and branding. She is the owner of MD2Creatives, a business that provides multimedia services and classes to aspiring creatives. Miesha has made a mark in the creative world, producing stunning visual content for clients across various industries. She is also an expert in branding and branding strategy, helping businesses create a unique and memorable brand identity that speaks to their target audience. In this episode, we will be diving into Miesha's journey and learning from her experience and expertise. Whether you're a business owner looking to create a strong brand identity or a creative looking to improve your craft, Miesha has got you covered. Her passion for education and empowering others to succeed is truly inspiring. So, sit back, relax, and join us in this conversation with Miesha Dennis of MD2Creatives on the Work in Progress podcast.
All right, we're back again with another episode of the Work in Progress podcast. We are here today with Miesha Dennis from MD2Creatives. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Glad to have you on the show today. Wanted to kind of go in and talk about your creative endeavors, your business, your transition from working a full-time job into doing your business full-time as well, and talk about some of your personal things as far as like what you like to do when you're not working.
Cool.
With your business.
Let's get this going.
So first of all, where did you grow up at?
I grew up in, I guess I always claim Upper Marlboro.
Okay.
I was born in D.C.
Okay.
I was there probably about until I was maybe one.
Mm-hmm.
My brother was there a lot longer than me. He's older. Mm-hmm. We moved to Bladensburg. So I think I finished off like pre-K and stuff in D.C. And then I was at like Roger Heights Elementary. And then we moved to Upper Marlboro. And I went to Patuxent Elementary. So I finished out at the Bladensburg School. Then I ended up going to, what's that school in the Meadows? Patuxent Elementary.
Okay.
And then I went to Madison and Douglas. So Upper Marlboro. Still live in Upper Marlboro.
Okay. So when were you inspired by the arts? How early on?
Very early.
Okay.
Like very early. I was a kid. This
Mm-hmm.
was Bladensburg days. So I was it's so funny. Like me and my brother used to like race to the TV. TV was in the living room.
Okay.
So we shared a room, bunk beds. And I used to try to get up early to beat him to watch Saturday morning cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob Ross was on.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So like I was like completely enamored by him. So I
making the clouds and stuff.
Yeah.
Making it simple.
Happy trees and all that. So
Yeah.
I used to get like crayons and mimic him.
Mm.
And then my dad,
How old were you around this time, you think?
God, what's your earliest memories? Like 4? I had to be probably like 5.
Okay.
Like maybe 5 or 6. But I remember because we were only there until I think I was maybe 6.
Okay.
But I remember like getting up and doing that. So like probably like 4 or 5. And during the same time, like my dad used to, days when he used to watch me, I guess he was trying to figure out like stuff for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
So he would like draw like a bunch of different circles on a piece of paper and have me like color it. And he kind of really got me into it. And I don't even think he know that. Like I mentioned that to him recently. I was like, you kind of like really like help hone
Kinda
a lot
put
of
the
the
battery in your
stuff.
back.
Yeah, that. And of course like the Bob Ross stuff. So like even now I'm like obsessed with Bob Ross. So I got like so much Bob Ross stuff that's just collecting. So yeah, that's pretty much the start. So
Are you able to mimic some of the stuff that he does?
Yeah, now, but like back then with the crayons, I couldn't get the shading quite right. But I think it's kind of always there. Like fine arts was always like at my foreground, I guess. Like it was just there.
Mm-hmm.
I think all kids like you get crayons early on, so that's just what it is. But I just ran with it, I guess. Like it stayed, like it was always there.
Mm-hmm.
I like to write too. So I guess as I got older, I wasn't sure exactly what to do, but art was kind of always there. And then when we got to high school, I did graphic design classes.
Hold on, before we go there, do you have some of those old drawings that you worked on? Any?
I wish.
Okay.
I wish. Yeah, I don't have a lot of stuff from my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, I used to do like crafts and stuff, just like random things. Like my parents would save like paper tube rolls for me,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember making like this maze. I don't know if I was gonna put ants in it, just craziness, and I would just cut stuff up and
Yeah, you basically you coloring outside the box, basically.
always. And my parents, they would either, and I had friends, like I'm outside too, and then I have moments when I just want to be by myself. That's just what it was, even as a kid. And I think they either knew I was either drawing somewhere or I'm in the house somewhere reading a book if I'm not outside. So those are two places they can either find me. I'm either outside or I'm in my room, either cutting some stuff up, trying to find some paint where I can like paint something, or just reading a book.
Okay. And you say you like to write as well. You like poetry, or what do you like to write?
Right now it's poetry. I think it's kind of always been that, writing down my thoughts, ideas.
You journal?
Not as much as I used to.
Okay.
But yeah, I do journal. Right when I'm inspired. Everything is pretty much when it comes, that's when I get it out.
Yeah. I just started journaling myself just to kind of give myself some like self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And that we also can kind of archive like what's my mindset that day. So I find it very helpful.
Yeah, I had this journal. I think it's called like the 5-year. It's 5 years something. I got it from Amazon, and it's 5 years. You write one sentence every day, and then every year under it, so you can see your progression for the 5 years,
That's
like
cool.
how you was feeling. I stopped it. I think I may have done maybe 2 years. So I think I might pick it back up just because there's a lot going on in life right now. So I think now would be a good time to kind of chronicle that stuff.
Yeah, it's a good way to unpack your mind too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's interesting to just see the progression, or like, well, in
Hopefully
my case,
progression.
Yeah, in my case, progression. But yeah,
So how did you progress from there, from childhood? How did the foundation of like I said, Bob Ross, all of the different things that you did as a kid, drawing and things like that, how did that grow and progress into what it is today? Like, how did you get into middle school, high school? What was the next level from that?
next level, high school. Like middle school is the awkward years. I feel like I've completely blocked middle school out. It's not like it was terrible.
I did too. That's crazy that you said that.
It wasn't terrible. It's just,
it's not a place that I feel like I wouldn't want to. It wasn't bad, but it just it's weird.
Like
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Skip those 2 years, but I can't remember what I was doing.
There's nothing about middle school that I'm like nostalgic about. Nothing. No, I can't. I'm just serious. It's not.
Yes, I always like excelled in the art classes, but it wasn't. I was artsy, but I wasn't. I was more. I know I was different, but it wasn't. I wasn't just super artsy, and I don't know why. I think at that time you're a teenager, it's friends, it's just so much. Like you don't necessarily think about your future. It's not a lot of just thought into it. It's kind of like, okay, I might draw a little bit. I still have friends like, oh, can you draw this for me? And that's totally fine. But I wasn't, I have to draw, I have to get this out. Like, so I wasn't the super like crazy creative artsy person. And I guess in high school, same thing. It's just friends, school. I made good grades. I had AP classes. So art wasn't fully in my peripheral. It was just kind of always there. Yeah.
By you saying that, basically it was just kind of there. At that time, it wasn't like this is something I want to pursue. Like by high school, did you kind of already know what you wanted to do professionally, or you just still trying to figure it out as you were going along?
Does anybody know what they want to do by high school?
No.
Sometimes. I mean, they kind of have an idea, say, hey, I want to be a dentist, but like, is it realistic? Depending on,
Exactly.
I don't know. I don't know if I can name anybody who was like, I want to do such and such, and that's what they're doing today.
Yeah.
It's, to me, it's just very unrealistic. You start high school at 14,
right?
By 18, you're supposed to figure out what you want to do with the rest of your life. Like it's just not realistic at all. But I think I always knew, like, I can't do art. Like it's fine art. Like what jobs are in fine art? I think I was very much.
You were being realistic at the time.
Yeah, I was like, I can't. What am I going to be painting? Like I've been to museums where it's like, come on, like these are old famous white guys for the most part. Live in other countries that their art's been brought to, I guess, the Smithsonian. So of course it's going for millions or whatever. I was like, for one, I'm not painting on that level. Two, some of it I don't even think is that great, but others do. So it's subjective. But I never thought, like, do I really want to be painting? And I think for a long time I thought that was like the only art career. I think a lot of people do that. Like even when you're taking art classes in high school, like it's painting, that paper mache. I ain't about to do nothing with that. Like I know like, I can't be no super famous paper mache artist. Like that's not a thing. So just when I think about the basic art classes that we've done and just the level of the work, I'm like, I can't make a living doing this stuff.
So it's kind of more looked at the time as a hobby, something that you like to do. Yeah. You know, to get your mind off like reality and regular work and school work and things like that. It was kind of a escape as well.
Escape. Also, it's a lot going on up here. So it helps me get it out. Yeah, that's basically what it was. I kind of like to call it like my imaginary friend. It's kind of, it was kind of always there. It wasn't until I got older and I was like, okay, like this was always there. It was always there. It's a thing I wanted to do that I had no idea about. That's just been there the entire time.
Right.
And I just had to like figure out another way to do it. And I guess that came in high school. Like I did 11th grade. I did computer graphics 1. I was like, this is cool. It's interesting.
So Mr. Fant.
Okay. Mr. Fant. Another way to do art. It's cool. And of course, like, I guess I'm naturally creative, so I took to it easily. Like, this was easy to me. I'm helping people. They're like, how do you do it? I'm like, it's easy.
Yeah, it was natural. It's natural to you.
Yeah.
Using that lasso tool.
On those old computers.
Yeah.
Computers.
So then, high school, I did Mr. Woodyear. And he had the Max, like so he had the iMacs and just pushed it more. And I remember he kind of was like, yo, your stuff is really good. I was like, okay. And I think during the time I was like, I wanted to be a writer. I think I was thinking about journalism. I was like, okay, I can probably do journalism. I remember having Miss McCorkle.
Okay.
I think that may have been 10th grade. So she really helped improve my writing. So I think even with that, I think I wanted to do creative writing. I'm like, this ain't a thing.
Yeah.
It was so much stuff that I was like, this is not a thing. Like I cannot make a living doing this. So I was like, okay, if I write, I can do journalism. I was like, no, I want to report the news. There was just so much stuff. Like, do I want to do this? At the time, I got a boyfriend. Like I'm not thinking about, I'm really not thinking too much about careers.
Most kid time that age, you don't have any like foresight.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just not there. I'm like, okay, I know I need to go to school. Like I have to figure out what to do. And my parents, they didn't push me. I think they kind of just always knew I would figure it out. And I think that's more so how they treated me my entire life. They're like, she'll figure it out. And they never really push anything my direction. It was kind of always, and I appreciate that. Like they never, oh, you're going to do this or this is going to be your thing. Like they kind of just let me like really figure it out.
Do you think that was also a hindrance? So say if they noticed that you did have a strong take into art and they put you in say like Duke Ellington, do you think that would have pursued or pushed you forward in your current career now?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I like to think that like stuff happened for a reason. Like this was the path I was supposed to be on. Like with my daughter, of course, when I see her take an interest in certain stuff, I push it, but I also have the means to do so. Yeah. So I get it. Like they didn't have the means to do so. But with my brother, like, because he wasn't sure what was going on, like they pushed him in a certain direction. That's not where he is now, but they did like, look, you're going to do something after high school. Yeah. But for me, I think because I was in AP classes, because they knew I was already talented and smart, and I think it's a difference between like raising girls and boys. I think for the most part, you kind of know the girl is going to probably figure out her schooling. The guys more so, you may have to help guide them and direct them a little bit more. But yeah, they never I don't even think we even talked about college once. I remember, I remember them putting me. I got enrolled in like PSAT and SAT prep classes, and they had me going to Roosevelt to do like practice stuff. So my dad used to take me to that. So like yeah, they helped in those cases, but as far as really pushing me in one direction, like they never did that. And I think it's because they knew, like I was like, okay, I gotta figure out college. And I remember speaking to Mr. Woodyear about it. He was like, Maryland has he went to University of Maryland. So I think he did graphic design there. And then he told me about Corcoran, which is a college in DC. So they've recently merged with GW, but that's art school, okay. Local art school in DC. And he said it's tough to get in. It's a private school. And so he said, but I can he said we can like go over some of your stuff and like build your portfolio. So that's what we did. I included a couple of fine art pieces in there. And the rest was like graphic design stuff. And I remember submitting my portfolio. I think I had to, of course, like write something. He gave me a referral. I think a couple other people, and they called me in for like the interview and went through my stuff, and I got in there. But I think before that, I thought about Temple. I was obsessed with Philly. I love Philly sports. I was like, oh, I'm going Philly. This is where I'm going to be.
And Philly sports, you mean like the Eagles, or what you mean?
Oh, Eagles. I got it. Oh. Eagle keychain right there. Eagles.
Unfortunately.
Eagles, Sixers. I don't do baseball, but like if I had a baseball team, it would be the Phillies. But yeah, obsessed with AI, Donovan McNabb, all that. So I was Philly all day. That's where I'm gonna be. That's where I'm gonna live.
Okay, so you one of them wild Philly sports fans, huh? They got jail cells and for the Eagles.
I actually haven't been to a Philly game in Philly. What? I've only been to watch them smack on the Redskins. But yeah, I haven't been out there yet. I don't know if I'm ready for that. I'm like, they a little too much. But
you got to get the full experience though. That's
I mean, eventually I'll and I've been to Philly like a million times. That's still like a place I like to visit. But I was very much like, oh, this is where I'm going to live. And I think I looked at their program. I was like, I don't think it was that good. I was like, I don't know about their program. Thought about Howard. But even then, you don't realize the community and the alumni status of like certain schools. Like hindsight's 2020. Like now, I guess if this wasn't working out, I'd probably been like, damn, I should have went to Howard just so I could have that network after, or I should have went to Temple for that network. But like it worked out. So I am thankful that I did the path I chose and got into the school I got into.
So when you got into school, did your mentality change where you say maybe this is something I can pursue? I mean, because obviously now you're in, say Corcoran, and this is what you're doing now. Like, so were you really were you focused on like graphic design? What was your main focus?
Yeah, so I went in, I think, as a digital media.
Okay. So it's kind of a broad program.
Okay. So they offer fine art. They do fine art photography, photojournalism.
All right.
What else they do? Graphic design, and then digital media. I think they have another art field, but strictly art school, like no math.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, like art. I was like, it's perfect. Like art all the time.
Wish I did
like
that.
This
no
is
math.
Real.
We had to take like 3 different maths.
No, they threw you in immediately, and I think that's the benefit of going to art school. I think later on, like I knew about SCAD, but I also knew like financially, like is that reasonable? So DC right here, like it made sense. And like they throw you right in, like your freshman year, you kind of get a taste of everything. So you do a fine art class, where straight like still drawings, like you do the new models come in, you guys draw them and sketch them.
Were you overwhelmed like your first year there and seeing like all this these methods and ways of art that you might not have known of? Was it overwhelming at first?
No, I think it just made me fall in love even more. I was like, okay, this is it. Like
Yeah,
I didn't know it was like this much,
Yeah.
this much. And I think the way that they do that first year program is everything, because you come in, you're like, all right, this is my major, and then they give you a taste of everything. It's like, you sure? Like, what exactly do you want to do? Like, you're in the school now. It don't matter what you came in for, like where you want to finish off at.
Right.
So, I got a taste of everything, and I think I went with digital media because I was thinking financially. I was like, this makes more sense.
And you were looking towards the future, like everything's going to be digital, so this is the smartest path to go, and
Definitely. But graphic design was like the heart. Like that was always the heart. Like I love print. Even now, I love print. I love paper. I love seeing it, like touching it. Like that's what I love. Paper samples, picking out inks. Like I love that.
Okay.
So I think maybe my sophomore and junior year, the classes are the same. I don't think for graphic design and digital media. Aside from like taking a little bit of more, I think like editing and then website design.
Okay. What kind of editing were you doing?
So we didn't use videos. So we edit like logos, kinetic typography, more motion, but we had to like use our own graphics. So it's like any like vector art, stuff like that, because we wasn't doing photo or video. So it's like, okay, you're animating this logo design, or you're animating a commercial, but you can only use type and graphics. So that gave me that foundation. That's how we was using Flash. So I remember.
Oh, Flash! Wow, that's
yeah, we was using Flash at that time, and we did some Final
What version was that?
I have no idea.
One.
Right. I have no idea. I remember like animating like a game. Like one of my instructors was like, "Oh, you just animate a game." I remember like drawing a figure for it and then created an Illustrator and then animating that. And I forgot what the game is. I think you got to answer questions and you advance, but did all that in Flash. And then we did like some Final Cut stuff for the kinetic typography and that other stuff. So like that was my editing experience. And I think after that, I was like, I miss print. I was like, I miss print. I'm like, this is cool, but like I miss print. So I switched majors.
Oh, okay.
So I switched majors. So I finished with like my BFA in graphic design.
And so after you graduate, what's next?
You
jump right into a career in your desired field, or is going through some jobs, I would say
some 9 to 5s.
Yeah, I would say what's another term for it? Odd jobs, maybe jobs that's like, hey, just trying to keep the bills paid until I get to what I really want to get to.
No, actually, so I was working when I was in school. It may have been my junior year, maybe. And they had 2 campuses. So they have one, so it's a museum. So it's a Corcoran Museum that's private. So this is like one of the few museums in DC you actually have to pay for. So that one's on 17th Street. So it's right by the White House. Okay. 17th Street. So that's like the main campus. So that's where they have a lot of the fine art classes. And then they had a location in Georgetown that's like right by Duke. Right by Duke. And that's where most of the like graphic design and all the computer-based classes and majors was there. Okay. So I spent most of my time at Georgetown. Of course, a couple times I was in the main campus, I guess as I got to like my sophomore through senior year. Freshman year, I was downtown more. I was on 17th Street more. But I was like, I need some more money. And I happened to be walking, I think, at that time, like Baby Gap. I think I walked past them and they were doing like walk-in interviews. I was like, all right, cool. It's a perfect day. Let me just go in. So I got a job there. So I would just go in between classes. And my schedule was crazy. Like sometimes I have a morning class and a night class. I'm like, all right, I can work this day. So they were super flexible. So I was getting my extra money. And then my junior year, I was like, I think I probably just need to like look for an internship. So I talked to my advisor at the time. She was like, actually, something just came through. So it was with the National Park Foundation. and their person she was about to go on maternity leave, their full-time in-house graphic designer. And she took courses at the Corcoran, so that's who she reached out to first when she was looking for a replacement. And I interviewed with her boss, and they put me on. So that was a paid internship.
Okay.
So my like first working job was like the paid internship, and then so I was doing that. Summer I was getting the full-time money because I was there all day, and I was like, okay, this is cool. So this is all right. I think she was loving like maternity leave, so she was like, yeah, you can stay like a little longer. And so I was like, all right, cool. And then they even talked about having both of us, even like when she comes back. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm still in school, so I can like this works. Senior year, I get pregnant. Early. I think September. September is
wow. It's like right at the start of the semester.
Right at the start of the semester. Went to the doctor. Now, of course, I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell am I about to do? I was like, my parents are going to kill me. It's my senior year.
And you're like, I got plans, things I want to do.
It was just so much going on. I was like, I don't know. And my doctor was so good. He was like, you're good. He was like, you graduated in May. She's due May 22nd.
Wow.
Like you're good. He was like, you are he's like, you're young. He's like, this is not a at-risk pregnancy. Keep going to school, keep working. And at that time I was still doing like Gap. I was still trying to figure out how to do that. And then got
you had a perfect job, baby Gap, right?
Oh yeah.
Get some clothes.
Right. So yeah, I was trying to like work both of those. And I was going to school, pregnant. And he said, yeah, you're good. He was like, if anything happens, I will let you know. He said, but you're fine. Went to my checkups. And everything was good. I think the most trouble I had, aside from like sometimes being sick, or just being tired. Like I was tired, and my teachers were so understandable. They're like, okay, it's fine. And I like still got my work done. So they were completely like on board. Like, all right, like what do you need from us for this to happen? And
so you had a village there.
Yeah, they were really supportive. And I think my doctor was in DC, so I would kind of go appointment, whatever. Everything at that time was in DC, but I lived in Suitland. Okay. So that's where I was during that time. But everything else was in DC, so I was there pretty much morning to night.
So if I may ask, how did your parents take that news? Because you're still, young, under their roof. Were they accepting? Was there a little pushback? And
so at that time, I moved with my daughter's father and his parents. Okay. So I was under their roof, but of course I still had to tell like my mom and my dad, and I'm on her insurance. So like, she gonna find out eventually.
Yeah,
so
of course, yeah.
Of course, I told her first, and like the dates, I didn't have like the correct dates. I guess I'm not sure, but the doctor was like, "Let me do blood work and actually make sure this is going to be like a full pregnancy." So that's what I told her. I was like, "They're not sure if it's going to be a miscarriage." I was completely kind of downplaying the entire situation. I was like, "They don't know if it's going to be a miscarriage or like." So we'll see. And she's freaking out because she dropped out of school for my brother. You know what I mean? So like she's like, "What the hell?" So she's pissed. And like I remember just like getting off. I just had to get off the phone with her because she was like so upset. And I think like after a while she calmed down immediately, to be honest. Like she was she was completely fine. She calmed down. We held out on telling my dad. And I remember we went to the house prepared to tell him. And he I don't know, like my mom was kind of, and my mom can't hold water, but she held this. She held this. She usually tells all my secrets before I get a chance to even like get them out. So, but she held this one, and she was like, "Hey, they got something they want to tell you." And he was just like, "Who's pregnant?"
Oh, geez.
And then like her dad's like, "I am," like trying to make light of it.
Yeah.
And he was just like, "Okay." And I was like, "We good?" He was like, "I know you're gonna do what you need to do." And he was
like, "You basically got put in your big girl pants now."
Yeah, but like I said, I think they kind of always knew I would make sure everything was okay. And he was like, "Just make sure you don't stress and you like have a healthy pregnancy, and like I know you're gonna do what you need to do. And I was like, all right. So yeah, everybody behind me, supporting me. So she was due the 22nd. My graduation was the 23rd. I had a doctor's appointment the day she was due. And because at that time it's like, last month is every week. He was like, you're not dilated. He's like, you can walk tomorrow. And I was like, okay. He's like, man, if your water break, just come here. So I'm like, okay. So my mom was like, you sure? And I was like, yeah. I was like, he said it's fine. I was like, I feel fine. He said it's fine. So I'm at graduation, walking across stage, full belly. She was born a week later.
Wow.
So she was born 29th. So she held out week, let me walk. And that was that. And then during time, so I did my full 3 months maternity leave. The internship turned into full time. So I graduate, full-time job.
Okay.
With a baby.
Right. But then you basically hit the ground running, doing something that you actually wanted to do. It wasn't like, hey, now I have this child. I got to put all this on hold and I got to go take a job doing something I really don't want to do. That's, not my passion or anything. So it kind of, it worked out,
Yeah,
in the beginning.
I was living a dream. Like, I don't know a lot of people that come out of college with a job in their career.
Yeah, it's very rare. Yeah. It's very rare.
Yeah, and given, I don't know, it's just, I don't know. It's just the regular stuff. Like I said, something was like, well, I should just look for an internship. And that turned into an 8-year start of my career.
Yeah, I know most people, if anything, they had to do more internships after college. Like, it was more like proving grounds. It was, I mean, I know somebody told, before I graduated, it was like, oh, it's going to probably take you another 3 to 4 years. If this is what you want to do, it's going to take you another 3-4 years of just paying your dues and internships. And I'm like, really? And so, yeah. So what you were able to do is very rare.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. Is that like I said, you at the time, you're not even thinking about, even in school, you're not. I think we're just too young to fully process
you don't
that.
You don't know what's ahead.
You don't have no experience either. You don't know what's out there in the world.
But it's kind of funny because then once you get to a certain point of adulthood, you're able to reflect back and say, wow, I was young and naive and had no clue, and then you think about even some of your problems that you had at 19, 20, and you're like, that's small. That's nothing. That's nothing. All you had to do, you went to school, you went to work, but now it's like you're older, you have way more responsibility and stuff, So it's like, then when you have kids of your own, you're trying to you're going to eventually try to tell them, and they have no foresight. You're trying to tell them no, because of this, I went through this, don't do this and that. But then they're going to, so it's like forever going cycle. You just don't know. You just kind of until you get older.
Yeah. Hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
It's definitely 2020. Even my daughter, I'm like, I know this seems big right now, but it's not. It's not. And I'll let you think it's big. I'll let you be in that space. I just found myself telling her a lot of stuff that I remember my daddy telling me. He was like, look, this is not the end of the world.
Yeah.
There's more after this. I promise you. And no, it's not. This is the end.
Right.
But you can't comprehend that when you're younger.
No.
Even stuff now, I don't know if I'm fully realizing how much this is affecting my future or what little thing I do today, how much of an impact it's going to make on tomorrow. You don't know. You don't know. I can say while you're older, you definitely are more cognizant of it. But when you're younger, you're just like, today. This is what the issue is. But yeah, I definitely know and understand how lucky and fortunate I am that things went the way that it did, and it was all, I feel just kind of on a whim. I'm like, all right, let me do this. I think I should do this. So I guess it makes sense when my dad's always like, you'll figure it out. I was like, okay. So after that, I'm working there and doing everything, e-blast, newsletter design, and which actually benefited from me switching my major because I got that HTML experience.
Okay.
So I wouldn't have had that if I was just graphic design all the way through, because they didn't teach you that.
Mm-hmm.
It was the digital media piece where they taught you like some of the HTML. So I knew that, and I knew like some CSS. I've lost most of that now. I still, if I see it, I know certain things, but I haven't.
It's kind of like if you don't use it, you lose it.
Mm-hmm. But as I see it more, like when I do website design now stuff, like design stuff now, I some of it starts to come back.
Okay.
But I'm not doing like full coding from the ground up. And I never wanted to do that because to me that's not design. Like
But you were glad to at least know how to do it, you know.
And I think that's what pushed me out of that major. I was like, I'm not trying. I want to I want to create. That's not creating to me. A lot of the designers, well, a lot of the like web programmers I've worked with, they don't have the eye for design. They can build it out. So
they think numbers, they think code, they think in a different way.
Yeah, and that's not what I wanted to do. The money's great, but I was like, I wanna create. I think I was so sure at that time, like I want to create. Like when I got to college, I was like, this is what I want to do. I just want to do something where I know I'm like creating, and as long as I do that, I'm good. Like I don't care what it is, but as long as I'm creating, I'm good. So I got that from the job for a long time, and then it got stagnant. But it was a good run. It was a good run. I learned a lot. They gave me a lot of opportunities. As I mentioned before, that's where I got introduced into like the tree lighting stuff. So that was like my first run with like some of the celebrities coming in for that.
So before we get there, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
No,
finish it. So where was the transition when, like, how did the today and the past meet? Like, where did you get to the point where it's like, hey, I can actually do this as a business? Because I know eventually along the way you got into photography, cinematography as well. So where was the point in your life when you're like, hey, I can actually start this as a business and build this up? When did you have that light bulb moment?
That came after I left there. While I was there, I tried to do a little freelance just because I was getting stagnant. And I was like, I need something else. Like I'm tired of the same color palette. Like I need something else. So I tried to do a little bit there. I left there in 2016. 2017, I got another job, and then 2017, I volunteered to do graphic design for this art festival called Artomatic. So I did design for them, and the reason I was doing that again was because I needed like something else. Like even the new job, it kind of got stagnant too. I was like, okay, I'm tired of the same thing too. And they were actually doing like full graphic wayfinding and just large billboard signage in Crystal City Underground. So I was like, all right, they'll have like large scale prints of like my stuff and like installations and all that. So that was cool. And I was like, all right, let me try to push this full-time thing. Not full-time thing, but let me try to push this freelance thing. Because I wasn't thinking about full-time. I was like, I still need this steady job. I was like, I can freelance. I can do both. And I remember I was going to photograph my stuff. So I was like, I need a camera. And I asked my friend to use hers. And she couldn't find a battery.
What kind of camera was it?
That she had? She might have had a Canon. I'm not sure.
Okay.
She may have had a Canon. But I asked if I could use hers. And it was a regular, probably low line DSLR. I'm not sure. I just know I needed to photograph this stuff before. Because it was stuff on the ground too. So I need to get this before people start walking on it. It was like staircase installations and all that. I was like, I gotta get this before it's like destroyed. So I just end up going to Best Buy and getting a little box kit of
with the kit lens.
And I got Canon because that's what we learned in school.
Right.
When I did like a darkroom class, they gave us Canon cameras for that.
When you get the one and you get it with the kit lens, you're thinking like, oh, I came up or something. And after a while, you're like,
yeah. I was like, oh, cool, $700. Oh, I get 2 lenses in here. All right. So
those lenses are dogs.
Terrible plastic lenses. Yeah. So I got that, and I went and shot. I think I probably had an auto. I didn't know nothing about manual and all that stuff.
That's how you start and learn.
Yeah, so I did that. And my job, that was on a Friday. My job was having their annual like walk. That was at the Epilepsy Foundation at the time. So they was having their annual walk on the mall the next day. And I ran into this girl, and she was actually doing this woman, she was actually doing photography for the event, her and another guy. And she never met a stranger, super personable, very sweet. And we just hit off. So I'm like, how long you been doing this? And she said, about a year and a half. And that was like a nice contract. So I'm like, how'd you get this contract? And she was like, oh, I was taking classes.
Hold on, she said she's only been doing it for a year and a half?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's not her. That wasn't her full time, but it's like, you got this. It's like, I know how much that contract was for. So it's like, oh, you got this after a year and a half of starting? So she told me about these classes, and she said, yeah, super reasonable. This guy, he's been doing it for years. And she was like, he's done like celebrity work and stuff. She was like, but he teaches. Courses are like $125. At that time, I was, again, like looking for something else. Like I needed another outlet. And I was like, all right. I was even considering going back to school. And then I opted out of that because like more student loans. And I was like, that's not what I'm going to do. So I started the classes. I think the classes was starting like a month, not even a month later, like 2 weeks later. I was like, all right. So started the classes with Daryl Todd.
Yep.
And
you still do a lot of work with Daryl, right?
Yeah,
I was
partner.
looking at your site.
Yeah, I do. I partner with him on pretty much like most of my stuff. So I picked up quick because I went to school. And then it's always been ingrained in me since I was little. So I picked it up really quick. Took his second course because his second course is like mainly lighting. Okay. So it's a lot of studio lighting, natural lighting. The first course gives you the foundation. So that's when you learn exposure triangle, composition. So a lot of that stuff, I kind of like composition. Not really feeds into graphic design, but same stuff. White space, negative space. Same concepts, just a different medium. So it was very easy for me to just like pick up on it.
Yeah, it's natural.
Yeah. And he found out I could edit. So he, at that time, didn't have like a full-on video person on his team. Like he had like, he has partners. So he had probably at that time maybe 4 photography partners, but he didn't have a go-to video person. He had a few he would outsource to, but not a lot. So he had like old footage because when he does like destination weddings, he would still shoot video too.
So he would shoot video while he was doing photography.
The photo. Wow. Yeah, just to have like separate stuff. Or he'll have like a GoPro footage, stuff like that. So he was like, oh, I did this wedding in Seychelles. And I remember he did that when we had class. And he was like, you think you can like cut a video? So all right. So I cut something. And he was like, I want them to buy it. So don't show too much. Just like a little snippet. So like the girl saw it and she was like, oh, I want to buy that. She was like, I want like the full thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right. So I cut his footage. So that was like my first time working with video. Because remember I told you like the editing, I didn't work with video. So that was my first time working with video.
So this was your crash course into it.
At that time, so I didn't have Final Cut. So I was using Premiere.
Okay.
So I knew like they pretty much the same. So I was like, all right. So I put in Premiere.
Which one do you prefer?
Right now it's Premiere just because I've been using that a lot more now. Final Cut, I don't think I have that on my computer anymore. Okay. But of course I would know how to use it if it was like there. But
so you're not one of the person that's like, no, it's gotta be it's either it's Final Cut. Like you're not what's the word? I'm drawing a blank right now. You're not loyal to one or the other.
No,
it's just
I think
more so because of that was what was available at the time.
Yeah, I think right now I'm loyal to Adobe products.
Okay, because there's a lot of people out like creatives out there that's like loyal to one or the other. And then they also knock you if you're like you use Premiere, that's so Stone Age, and then vice versa. You still using Final Cut, so
yeah. No, I use Adobe products because like graphic design, everything is there. So for me, it makes sense. if I wasn't doing everything else, I'm not sure what I would use, but because I'm doing everything else, is Premiere. It's Premiere for sure. It's in my package, so that's what I'm gonna use. So they wanted to buy it, cut it. He gave me some money from it. He was like, all right, cool. So he taught me how to shoot video.
Okay.
From there, as far as, and then everything else was like YouTube. I've like looked up stuff.
It's free.
It's not yeah, and it's
YouTube
not
University.
It's not too far from photography.
Right.
It's not that much of a difference. So the pieces he didn't know, I was able to learn, but he like,
because you had already had the foundation from photography and all that, so it made it easy for you to slide right in doing video.
Yeah, so for me, it was now just like, what frame rate do I use? Making sure the shutter stays where it's supposed to stay. And then just like stuff like that. And then the more I shot, the more I edited, the better shooter I became.
Really? So the more
you edit.
That sounds backwards to me.
No, because when I'm editing, I'm like, shit, I didn't get this.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I didn't get this, or
you're making mental notes of
what is this trash angle? So it's like,
okay.
So that made me a better shooter. So the more I edited,
or maybe you like, I don't think I had enough B-roll or something like that. Okay.
So that just made me shoot better, or like, this looks horrible. I need to bump up the ISO on this, or I should have gone more deeper depth of field here. So it's, yeah.
So do you look back at those projects that you started with him and then
I hate them?
You cringe, like, but I always say that's a good thing, because if you don't look back at some of your really old work and you don't make a face, or you don't like, ooh, that's then it's like, did you really grow as much? That's how I rate it. I'm like, if I look at my old stuff, even stuff from 5 years ago, and I'm like, I could have did that better or something like that. Kind of, to me, it shows like the growth.
Yeah. The first video I actually shot and edited myself comes up on Facebook every year.
A reminder.
I'm like, oh my God. I think I posted it recently. I was like, I just cringe now every time I see this video. And
other people will love, they love it.
But I think, and I remember, like, I teach videography now. I'll get the story about all that stuff later. But I remember showing that to my students, and they're like, what don't you like about it? And I had to tell them, like, it's crazy shaky. And this was actually me doing like BTS for a personal shoot Daryl had. So he was doing like a little 70s theme Motown shoot at this like abandoned motel in Virginia. So I'm super shaky. Like, it's terrible. And I'm like, let me make this footage look like, because I know how to edit. I'm like, I'll just make the footage look like it came from like a handheld cam. So,
and where can we find that video?
I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. So I'll just cover up some of this stuff. At the time that I didn't think was mistakes.
Yeah. You know, you're thinking it's the best thing. You're like, oh wow,
and I'm like, I'll just go ahead and make this look like VHS, because that was like the time, like during that time period. And when I look back at it now, I was like, I would have covered this up the same way because of all the shakiness, but that was a deal. So then from there, I just started. He brought me on to do like weddings and stuff with him. So get more practice there.
Let me ask you real quick then. So when he brought you in and threw you in the fire as far as doing weddings, what was that first experience like as far as weddings? Because they can be, I would say for me, the very first time I shot a wedding was very overwhelming. It's just like, you know, like a deer in headlights, you know.
I'm trying to think how I even done a wedding as far as
like,
photography
did he kind of hold your hand along the way a little bit, or
he doesn't do that? He kind of just throws you in and let you figure that out.
Learn how to swim on your own.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of times you sink. He has. I'll talk about another project he threw me into, and I completely sunk. But thankfully for my editing skills, I was able to turn that around. But no, I'm trying to remember the first wedding. I think the first wedding may have actually been a good one. And that is one that blinded me from how weddings usually are.
You got a nearly perfect wedding, which most of them don't go perfectly. So
I think my first one was really good. The other ones were,
you got spoiled.
Yeah, because the other ones, Even now, I could probably count on. I may have done maybe 50 weddings by now. I can probably only count on one hand like my favorites. Ones where it was like no issues.
What are some of the issues that happened?
No planner.
Okay.
Those are the worst ones.
No planner.
Yeah, no planner.
Everybody thinking like, oh, we got it. Nobody knowing who's in charge.
You don't even get the shot you want sometimes.
No shots, like no timeline. Another issue, it being late. So if it's late, they cut the portraits. So the portraits is when I get my good stuff. That's when I get the couple like by themselves.
The most creative.
So that's the first thing that goes anytime that timeline is off. They're like, oh, well, they gotta go into the reception. So they completely cut that. So like I'm scrambling, but it's gotten to a point now. Like I used to get really upset, but it's gotten to a point now. I'm like, they know how their wedding was. Like they know how this thing went, and anything that I'm able to create from this, they should be thankful for, because I'm like giving it my all. Right. I'm giving it my all, and it didn't look like this. Right. It didn't look like this, and I've made this look like it was a lot better than how it turned out. So, trying to think of it. Oh, some don't feed you.
So you going all day hungry, starving Marvin.
Yeah, some of them
8 hours, and they like, or they feed you.
You get the brown box.
The little vendor.
Which I say, hey, I'm happy to eat, but it's like, and it's always, in my experience, I would say, you'd be surprised. It'd be the most upscale venue that gives you the brown box. You can be at the Potomac Country Club.
What's the brown box usually consist of?
A little sandwich.
Take a guess.
Turkey sandwich.
Yeah, it's a cold turkey sandwich that's tastes like it's old.
A bag of chips.
Yeah, an apple. And a hard cookie.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't get a cookie.
Oh, you didn't get the cookie?
But I'll get some wedding cake in a second.
Yeah.
In a second.
You like, they're going to make me sure they give me some wedding cake after that.
Cake yet? All right, cool. Did they cut the cake yet? I'm always like, I'm going to get me some cake.
And sometimes even they'll have a buffet, so you assume, oh, we're going to eat buffet. And they're like, oh, no, we got your food over here. So we're thinking, oh, we're VIP. Take you to the room.
You get the helper food.
And you see those brown boxes.
Oh, and even that too. They put you in a separate room. You're not eating with them and the guests. I've done that though. I've done a couple where they set out an actual vendor table with their whole table setting. Yeah.
You prefer to be with the guests?
It depends on the couple. It depends on how the couple and the family was. Sometimes like, just put me somewhere else. But they don't,
a little too ratchet.
They don't time it right either. They feed you when they feed the guests.
Yeah.
So it's like
you're the stepchild.
Or after they've served the guests. So it's like, y'all about to go into toast. When am I going to even eat this? Why am I not being served first?
That's where the good planners come in, because the good ones know that, hey, they got to shoot toast after, so we need to make sure that they eat now. Yeah. So you can tell the good plan, not just from that, but that's a good indicator to show if they have a good day of planner, because they've experienced. The ones that's not experienced, they're running around with their head cut off. They don't know anything about when vendors should be served and all of that. So yeah, I know you done seen some crazy stuff.
Encountering these type of situations, is there anything that y'all can put in place to say to kind of mitigate these situations from happening, or it's just you just got to roll with the punches?
It's nothing we can do. We didn't plan it. Like we're not the ones getting married. Like you guys gotta.
It's not our production.
Yeah, it's you just roll with the punches. You just gotta figure it out. But for stuff like that, I know it's not gonna be creative. So if I'm cutting this, you can start to finish. Like it's no crazy storyline here. Like this is a generic start to finish, and that's what I have. Like I have a generic idea in mind, like because as I'm shooting, I'm already editing in my mind. And I'm just like, they're getting the generic one. Like I have a generic system.
You can tell throughout the day what it's going to be like.
They're getting unless something happens in these last 2 hours.
Yeah, right. A Hail Mary situation.
Yeah, which is probably not, because at that point it's just the dancing, and that's even if people are dancing. But
sometimes you can tell in the first hour. Of the day. Yes. You can tell, you can be like, oh, this is about to be.
You can walk in sometimes. You can walk in sometimes and be like,
because of the energy and if things are organized, or just the overall, I mean, the venue, everything. You can already say, oh, this is going to be portfolio worthy. And then some you're like,
I ain't showing this to nobody.
It's just a paycheck.
Yeah, this is not going on the real at all. Like I'm gonna make it as great as possible, but so yeah, no, you've been in some of those same situations where you have to basically shine up a turd.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is that way.
Like,
So
it's terrible. It's terrible. And even I think I don't know, I might be against weddings at this point, as far as it just makes me look at the Institute of Marriage just like, y'all spending all this money on one day, and this daggone bridezilla acting like world revolves around her because this man done gave her a ring. Like, why are you even marrying her? It just be so much going through my mind. I'm like, God, you gotta deal with this for the rest of your life. Like, it's just
I've seen it.
it's
Too. So
just
have you
so
had an
much.
actual legitimate like bridezilla or the momzilla? Have you?
The mom's been pretty cool, but I've had a bridezilla.
Okay.
I've had a maid of honor who think it's their day or is their sister, so they're like, oh no, this is that, and the sister's pretty chill. But yeah, the bride is more so the bride versus anybody else. And it's not all of them. Some are really, really cool.
You have a crazy story? Anything that was out of the ordinary? Really like made you scratch your head?
I remember a bride arguing with her mom.
Okay.
Like, completely, nearly like about to cuss her mother out, and the mom left. So when it's time to do like photos, I think
she left the wedding?
I think she did the photos and she left. So when they was coming in during the reception, she wasn't there anymore. So, but I'm like, geez, like, so I don't know what the mom did, but I mean, I don't know if there's anything that you can do for like to justify you cuss out your mother at your wedding, but I don't know.
Cuss out your mother in general.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, like you said, the brides, it's their day, so they feel like, hey, they can do whatever they want. You know, me personally, I haven't had a bridezilla like go off on me, but yeah, I've seen somewhere they would go off on their parents.
Yeah, their parents, or even
or the groom.
I haven't seen them go off on the groom yet.
I know somebody that said that a bride actually took a swing with a knife at the groom during the cake cutting.
Was that your Philly wedding?
No.
Oh, okay.
That was not the Philly one. No, this was a friend's wedding, and he stuffed the cake in her face, and her natural reaction was to take the knife and swung it towards his throat.
Oh, I'm pretty sure she probably told him first off, like, don't do that, because
I makeup.
Yeah,
but the knife swing,
natural reaction.
Yeah, he might. It's too late to back out. He already signed the papers. I don't know. It might be too late for him to back out. When did you come up with your company name, and like what inspired the company name?
Oh, okay. So it started off as something else. Like, when I was freelancing, I think I had a different name. I don't even remember what it was. Something with designs in it. And then from there, I went to MD2 Studio. Okay. So that's what it was at first. And then
MD2 Studio.
Yep, that's what it was at first. And that was when I first started doing photography. And the idea was like, you get graphic design plus photo stuff. So I think that was even before video. So I was like, all right, this is gonna be design and photo. So Miesha Dennis, you get two, offering two different things. Studio idea was that studio is wherever I go, 'cause I ain't actually have a studio. But that was like the idea behind it. So I think I was rocking with that for like a few years. And then constantly working with Daryl. So when I work with Daryl, I'm working under his brand. And then I'm doing like my freelance stuff. And then, so that's like the design, and then like any photography that comes directly to me.
Quick question about that then. So being that you worked under Daryl on some gigs, and of course you had your own, I would say for me, because I've done that as well. Like, it was a good kind of break sometimes where you worked under somebody else's name. You didn't have to deal with the client directly.
Yes. So
versus where you directly had them. Yeah, you have more control over pricing, but you got to deal with the client as well.
Yeah, so that's perfect because he takes care of all the logistics. I pass off the images or video to him. He delivers that. Right. So, yeah, I think that's the biggest transition for the full-time thing is all the logistics part. Design is easy. Like I was already pricing out design, but that's different. I'm used to working with the client because we're going through like their whole brand or whatever they need.
Right.
So it's always like a
Really hands-on.
hands-on meetings. Let's discuss this. Photo is different. Like it's a different set of like expectations, or can you edit this? And you're like, yo, this is more. So it's different. It's a different it's definitely a different it's
Different beast.
How you approach it.
yeah. It's not the same space at all. Even though it's still like creative, it's just not that same space. I feel like you get a lot more because it's not as hands-on as design is. Like me kind of, hey, this is what we have now. Tell me what you like, what you don't like. I'm not redoing a photo shoot. Like this is
Unless they gonna pay.
Yeah, right. Unless you're gonna pay, but if you complain and you're not gonna pay, or if you don't think your wedding or whatever went this way when it did, and there's a problem with it, like we can't reshoot some stuff. Like events, you can't reshoot.
Right.
So that's where it gets like a little bit more difficult. So, like going back to MD2 Studio, so it was that for a minute.
So that's kind of where that was where you learned a lot. You kind of got, I call it a term, get burned to learn, where you're kind of going through the growing pains of running a business, because there's no instruction manual. A lot of times you're learning based on the experience, whether it's wins or fails.
Yeah, but the good thing for that for me is that I wasn't thrown directly in. At this time, I'm still working full time.
Okay.
I'm still working full time. So it's more of, I'm not going out looking for clients. It's, hey, can you do this for me? Or, someone referred me. Can you do this logo? So it's easier because I'm not looking for it.
Yeah,
so
it's
I
not
can
as much pressure.
I'm not looking for it. I'm like, okay, I still got this other thing. So during that time it was a breeze, but pandemic hit. That's when
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So,
that's
before you
when-
jump into that, so that phase of learning the administrative side of business, was there any times that you took a L, that you might have underpriced yourself, or that you didn't check your, cross your T's and dot your I's, and you might have lost money on the project? Has that ever happened to you?
Thankfully, I don't think so. I think because now, like I used to definitely play into this is my budget. And aside from me, what I do now, well, I can give you this for that. But what I used to do, I'll give you what I originally priced out for this. So I've adjusted that way. So like, yeah, I'll definitely look back now. And I'm like, I'm doing way too much work for this money.
You gave them the world for almost nothing.
And they didn't give me my original price. Like I gave them a discount. I gave them a favor. This is what they had. And I think for me, since a lot of it kind of is sometimes startup businesses as well, you seem to kind of you feel bad because you get it. Like you get it. You're more understanding, but at the same time, it's like, look, aside from I gotta make money from this, I think my worth is more than this.
Yeah.
Like my value is more than this. I'm not. And aside from that, I went to school for this, so I'm not like
qualified.
This is not you going to Fiverr or somewhere else to get some $50 design or some kid who just happened to buy a camera who's now all his friends liking his stuff, and he got just million followers that you think that this is something, and it's not. Like this is trash. So I'm not. I definitely have a couple where I'm like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that, and especially if it's not a good portfolio piece.
Right.
Especially if it's not a good portfolio piece. I'm
so
like,
at least if I didn't make as much money, if I can at least
Yeah.
use this as a portfolio piece.
That stuff I can appreciate even while I'm like, damn, I ain't make no money from this. I'm like, this is good for me to make money in the future. But it's like some stuff is not. Like it's just not. Some stuff is literally just a quick paycheck. And during that time, just because I'm trying to branch out more and get more side work, not necessarily go full time. I'm trying to get more side work. because I like doing other stuff. Again, I'm at this other job, so I want other things, or I want like other experiences and another creative outlet, and working with different people and not the same people all the time.
Right.
And I'm willing to kind of just accept whatever money they have. And then you'll see stuff, be like, you got more money than this. Like, I know you got more money than this, but this is what you're like willing to pay me. And I'm like, I'm sitting here willing to accept this. But again, like that's more so after the fact. Yeah. After the fact, like when it happens, you're like, should I? And then a lot of times, again, you're trying to build clientele. You're kind of like, let me just go ahead and take this. Let me just go ahead and take it.
In the beginning.
In the beginning, like a lot of that.